we set up, it was night. We set up, and we always slept in that tank. Or if we had, I have slept under it. But we slept in the tank, and we were set up one night, backed up in a, well, what it ended up, it was a big winery, and it was a, we just backed up in the yard in this place, and just sitting there. So all of a sudden here, the tank man said, hey, there's a tank coming down the street. So we couldn't, the gunner tried to turn it. See, the gunner was the one that operated that turret, see, because he's the one that fired the big gun. And he said the tank, the gun won't move. He said the tank commander was trying to get him to get the gun. I said, turn it to the right, turn it to the right. And he said, I can't move it. Well, we looked out there, and lo and behold, we was backed right up by a big post that had a big cement pillar on the top, and he got his gun against that. He said, turn it back, you got it against this post. He got the thing up, and that tank was about 7, 8 steps from us when he fired the first shot. And of course, we got him, you know. He didn't know we were there. They were coming down the street. All they were doing, I think, is trying to, well, he was just firing his guns, you know, right down the street in front of him, his gun. And when we fired the first shell, Robinette was the gunner. He said, put another one in that car, and he fired again. And so we sat there all night long, the rest of the night, with that tank sitting there where we knocked it out. And some of the people come by and said, you mean you knocked that damn thing got there? They turned the tank commander in for a Bronze Star. But he wouldn't accept it unless they gave it to the whole crew, which they just didn't do things like that. And
what kind of German tank was it? Do you know?
I don't know. I just know it was a German tank.
What happened to the crew?
Well, I don't really know. I know I stayed there all night and listened to some guy screaming for help out there. There's a little river out there, and I don't know. And we got the next day when it was daytime, and we got our stuff together and our tank straightened out, and we went in and got us, there's a big winery. You should have seen it. We went in and got us a few bottles of wine and put in the tank, and we went on back to our company headquarters. When we went back to the company, it was just real muddy and boggy and sloppy. And I'll never forget this. Well, a chaplain met us out there, and we started walking across the yard. Somebody asked him, said, do you want a drink? And he said, what have you got? So I got some wine they got in. He said, yeah, I'd like to have a sip. So we went on in there, and that's where that they called me up and told me, he said, you will take a tank tomorrow, which I didn't want to do because they gave me a tank that I didn't want to get out of the crew. I was in an experienced crew, but that's where they split me up from my crew, and I took a tank, and I didn't even have a full crew. And then also the tank had been knocked out by a bazooka would go in. Those things did, they burned their way inside the tank, and then it would explode, but they didn't necessarily tear the tank up. And so that's what I got as a tank, my first tank. They pulled my tank up into the little town, and a little later on that day, somebody came by and said, well, they just brought a guy by here, and they told me his name, and that was my tank commander. And of course, he was dead. I didn't see him, but he was dead, you know. I didn't see many big heroes in the war, but if there ever was one, he was one, because he was outside of his tank when this happened, you know. Lowell E. Love. He was just a brave, true soldier, and he got to be. They made him. He was a lieutenant then. And he fussed at us for saluting him. We went on, they'd send us back of the lines to what they call a 3-day R&R, just to get us way back from the front for a little while. And of course, he was back there with us. And if you saluted him, he didn't like it a bit in the world for us to salute him when he was a lieutenant, because we would always do it, because he was just for the aggravation. So that's where I first got my first tank.